Hey guys, I have another great interview for you today. I interview a scientist, Laura Marsh, and she is like me, an entrepreneur starting a new organization called Nova Conservation. This is such a great idea. I am so excited about it. There's a Kickstarter launch party on February 1st for it that I'm a part of. So I'm going to put the link in the show notes and I really hope you join me. But this is a really cool idea that she has about how to connect a scientist and non-scientist to real conservation problems. Also ways of generating income into the conservation industry, or the conservation field, which is always strapped for cash. We also talk a lot about experiences in wildlife biology and becoming a scientist, and how these experiences make it difficult for people of lower incomes to become a scientist or a wildlife biologist. And before we get started in the interview, I just want to clarify one thing that we talk about. At one point, Laura mentions that you really need to give some volunteer experience before you go into this field. And what she meant by that is that it is extremely, extremely difficult to get a job without any experience, a paid job. So it's not that she's advocating for this at all. We both agree that we don't want that. But just given how saturated the market is, that employers really want someone with experience. So in the interview, I talk about how you can find this at your college. That's what I did. So you can at least get research credit for it, course credit for it. But she's not saying this is the way it should be. She's saying that this is the way it is. And I agree with her. It's extremely difficult to get a job without any experience at all, and you're probably going to have to volunteer to get it, unfortunately. So I just want to say that going in, but this is a really great conversation, wide-ranging. We talk about internet trolls again at the end. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, Laura. Welcome to the Fancy Scientist podcast. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. This is really great.
So you recently founded, or you're launching an organization called Nova Conservation. And if you're on YouTube, you can see she has a Nova Conservation t-shirt on. Can you tell me about this organization and what it is?
Sure. So I started this about 1 year ago, early January 2020. My initial thought was that I would be a small ecotourism company that is going to try to bring people out to have research expeditions, because I'm a biologist and I think people want to have these experiences with nature and wildlife, and people are willing to pay for them. So I was initially going to start a small ecotourism company in the southeastern United States region. But then March hit and coronavirus shut everything down. So I had to refocus a little bit. And so instead, what I'm doing now is building a global database that connects people of all ages, experience levels to conservation projects across the globe. So instead of myself organizing these trips, I'm trying to reach out and branch and connect with as many nonprofits, NGOs, research institutions, and ethical ecotourism companies, and funnel them onto one website, one platform that allows people to easily search for any type of environmental give back project that they want, whether that's an internship, a job, or is a one-day beach cleanup or trail maintenance workshop, or urban beekeeping learning experience, something like that. Anything that gives back to the planet, no matter your age or experience level or where you are. I want it to be in a one-stop shop location on our site, novaconservation.com.
That's awesome. And so this is for scientists and for people who have no experience in science as well. So if somebody actually one bit of advice that I give people is, because this field is a little bit more competitive and salary is an issue. We don't get paid that much. I ask people to consider maybe they really do want to work a more lucrative job and then do conservation in their off time. So this would be a really great way for people to do that.
Exactly. Yes, there's so much competition in the field, as you know, and it's just it's a shame because it's such a great industry to go in, and people who are entering wildlife conservation or wildlife biology are so passionate about it, and we want to keep those people in this field and in this industry. Unfortunately, what happens is they realize there's not a lot of money to be had, or you have to move constantly, or it's just a hard field to work in. So they end up getting, office jobs or something like that, and that passion kind of dissipates, and they feel neglected or abandoned by the conservation industry. So this is our way of trying to give back to those people and tell them, hey, even if you're not working full time in conservation, you can still help out on a weekend, whether you're here in your hometown locally or whether you happen to go on a trip to Florida or Africa, even. There are ways to ethically give back to the planet, no matter where you are, what stage of life you're in.
I love that, because really the only experiences I know about right now are citizen science, and there are some like really amazing citizen science projects out there. Some of them are global, some of them are local, some of them are virtual, and then Earthwatch, which is a really cool idea as well. So you go on these research trips, but they're pretty expensive, and I know a lot of people can't afford that, and they tend to be in like these really charismatic locations. Although there is one I remember in Coyotes in New York City, so there are
that's cool.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, I read about that because I was reading Coyote papers, and one of the studies that Earthwatch participants took part in, I think they were collaring and tracking coyotes. I think that was the study in Central Park.
Oh, that's really neat. I had not heard of that one.
Yeah.
Most of the opportunities like Earthwatch that exist currently are expensive. So we're trying to find that middle ground in between, I want to do something more than just look on an app and help citizen science that way, but I also can't afford the $5,000 experience to Madagascar or something like that. So all sorts of ranges of experiences for anyone we want to have available on our site.
Yeah, and that's true for citizen science. It's really hard to find, at least in my experience, it seems hard to find ones where it seems like it's really intense, where you have to connect with scientists and like really commit and be a volunteer, or it's like virtual, and then you don't get that in-person research experience as much and exchange with the researchers.
Right. And that's part of the frustration I've found as being a biologist. I have 2 kids, and I can't commit to a 3-month, 4-month project anymore. Like, it's just not in my capacity. So, but I still want to give back to conservation when I travel. So for example, we love national parks. So if I go up to Maine and Acadia National Park, or somewhere in Utah for one of those national parks, I want to not just go on a hike, but I want to connect with the biologists who are doing work there. I see the national park guides and I see the biologists doing research, and I'm thinking, how can I connect with you? I'm a biologist too. Like, I want to help. I don't know how to make that connection. So that's another goal of the site, is to help biologists connect with other biologists on an easy platform, because there are so many of us out there who would be willing to even pay for an experience that's unlike something we can get. I'm a bird watcher. I'm an ornithologist, so that's my expertise, but I would love to help out with a salamander project, or even tree surveys, or mammal coloring research. And I'm able to pay for those experiences. And I think there are other people out there, not just biologists, but people who want to have these experiences, who just don't know about them, that are willing to pay for those types of experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I totally would. I remember when I was in Costa Rica, I went as my friend's +1, and it was like because it was a wedding, it was like an all-inclusive resort, stuff that I normally don't do. And we added on a rainforest walk. And I mean, it was nice, but as a scientist, it was really frustrating because I kind of knew a lot more, not about the local wildlife, but I knew how to bird watch and stuff more than the locals. And I wanted to do things that they weren't willing to do on the tour. So like, it would have been great to sign up for someone who was doing research, and I could go through the forest and we could do bird surveys and they would teach me the different calls and things like that. But
right, just a little bit more than just this kind of touristy experience, a little bit more involved, a little bit more that gives back to conservation, or a little bit more research focused, I think is what we're trying to tap into, because there are those touristy, adventures where you're ziplining through the rainforest, but you're not getting to experience the environment and the ecosystems and hear about how it all interacts with each other. And I think that's what people want a little bit more of, to really connect with the conservation experiences in a beautiful place like Costa Rica.
So I know there's a lot of both professional and non-professional experiences out there that people can pay for. And some of them, like I have some blog posts about sanctuaries, and a lot of sanctuaries do this where, there'll be like, I just saw one actually for an elephant sanctuary in South Africa, where the tourists can like feed the elephants and interact with the elephants, and the elephants do tricks. And that's not a real sanctuary. And same thing for ecotourism. There's a lot of like swimming with captive dolphins is not a good conservation tourism, ecotourism.
Right.
I wouldn't even call it ecotourism. But so how are you like vetting these organizations, or how can people know what's good and what's not good?
So we hope to be that place on the internet that that vets everything. So we're looking at every partner and every nonprofit, every sanctuary that claims to be focused on conservation work, and make sure that it truly is focused on conservation work. So I have a team of interns behind me that are doing that due diligence, but it's also up to, it's like a buyer beware type of thing. Like, we do our best to vet and make sure that these organizations are held to the highest ethical standards, yet at the same time, we're just a third party that's trying to connect people with them. So we also encourage people to do their own research as well, to make sure that this is a valid organization. So we vet every posting that's on our site. And we're currently still in the building stages. So I'm working with now a team of developers to make our site more interactive, more user-friendly, easier for people to post. And at the same time, so if you're an organization that's verified and ethical, you want to be able to find the right participants for your trip or internship. So it has to be a give and a take type of thing. So we're working on sorting out how to make it as easy as possible, but we're still in the growing pains process. There are bugs and kinks that we're working out. So if you are interested in looking for an opportunity, I just encourage patience, because we are still trying to post and get as much traffic as possible and make it as easy as possible for people to find these experiences. And if you're an organization looking to partner with us, right now we're allowing organizations that verified and ethical ecotourism companies such as Jenny of the Jungle, who takes amazing trips all the way out to the Himalayas and Africa.
Oh, cool.
And all sorts of NGOs, small NGOs that we're trying to help out to get those volunteers and to get the internships and interns that they need. We're allowing them to post for free for 2021 and hopefully beyond. Nova Conservation is a passion project of mine, in the sense that I'm kind of paying out of pocket right now for this to build this website. And I want to make it as easy as possible for nonprofits to just find the qualified volunteers and participants they need, so they can be freed up to do that conservation work. They don't have to worry about marketing and spending time trying to find all these people, or tell organizations that they're verified. We do that work for you, essentially, and we let people know, hey, this is a good organization. Like, the sea turtle conservation research is not, a a pay to work scheme or a pay to play type of experience. We do that for them so that they can get back to their conservation and earth saving work. So all that to be said, it's a growing growing organization, and we're trying to raise some funds to help with that. So that's what the Kickstarter launches that we have coming up on February 1st is going to be doing. And Stephanie, you'll be participating in that. So I'm so excited that you're going to be helping with that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so happy about that too. Can you tell us about that event?
Sure. So on February 1st at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have 6 different, well, actually 7. One is a couple with LifeNet Nature. 7 different conservationists are going to be talking to me 10 minutes each. It's just a really casual, fun event. Free. It's going to be on Zoom here. So we'll just, bring a glass of wine or whatever you want. And we'll just be talking about what the work you do and the work that we're doing here with Nova Conservation to hopefully try to ignite and raise some funds for the Kickstarter launch. So we're doing a 60-day Kickstarter launch from February 1st to April 3rd. And I am stoked. We have so many great events planned, and I'm hoping that this will change the way people think about conservation in a big way.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jessie is also going to be there of Lonely Conservationist. I featured her 2 podcasts ago. So if you enjoyed that interview, definitely come on this event and you'll be able to chat with her.
I enjoyed that interview. I listened to that. I get to talk to both of you guys. And Wesley Larson, Grizz Kid, will be the guest speaker at the end of the event as well.
Okay.
So I'm really excited to meet him and talk to him and hear about his bear biology research and his big, well-known conservationist in the industry. So it's going to be a really great, we're calling it Conservation Hot Shots event where lots of people are coming. And I hope you guys will all tune in and join us as well.
Yeah. And so can you tell us about your background leading up to Nova Conservation? So you are a scientist. Can you tell us about like how your journey to become a scientist and some of the research that you've done before?
Sure. So I am here in Tennessee. I went to undergrad at University of Tennessee in Knoxville, and I got my master's in Chattanooga in environmental science. I did my thesis in ornithology. I studied birds and looking at the bird, basically their body mass index to see if people on trails had an effect on body mass index of birds, specifically neotropical migrants, and they did. But interestingly enough, this is not what I wanted to focus on, but I think it's an interesting note that the resident species of birds, so birds are here year-round in the southeastern United States, such as cardinals, chickadees, titmice, they were in better energetic condition near people on trails than away from trails. So they must have been accustomed to finding different food resources.
Yeah, I wonder if that's it.
Yeah. And, people are like, well, people can feed birds. And I'm like, well, people don't, cardinals won't eat Cheetos. So it's not necessarily human food that they're eating. So they're just more acclimated to people on trails. So I have a very sciencey mind. I'm constantly thinking of science questions, and I considered seriously getting a PhD. And the reason I chose not to is because, first of all, I couldn't think of one project I wanted to focus on. I'd studied cerulean warblers. I've studied yellow-billed cuckoos. I've worked with the Smithsonian Migratory Bird Research Center. I've worked with all sorts of different organizations and universities, Cornell University, all over the country. And I could not just pick one project to focus on. And I know that the funding is so limited still for academics. And I think ultimately I just didn't want to be clawing my way to get grant funding and to get an academic position and go through the publish or perish type of mentality. Academia is not my main interest with conservation. So deciding not to do a PhD was a good decision for me, not for everyone, but I knew that it freed up, some resources for other people to find grant money, or not take a job away from someone who really, really wanted it. I just didn't want it bad enough. So I also considered, starting my own nonprofit. And the reason I didn't go the nonprofit route, which a lot of people think Nova Conservation is a nonprofit, and it is currently not. We hope to have a nonprofit arm eventually, and I'll explain that probably in a little bit. But there's already so many nonprofits out there, conservation related and environmental related, that I didn't want to have to, again, scrap and fight for funding, for grants, for donations, for just doing everything in your power to try to raise money. I think there is a unique way that the planet can be, I don't want to use the word capitalism because that's a different story.
You can say a business, maybe?
Yeah, because there are so many great, interesting things that nature provides to us that can be tapped into in a unique way. We just have to think about it a little bit differently. So, for example, I'm on some of the Facebook forums, and one of the organizations in Costa Rica, one of the sea turtle conservation research institutions, was posting, hey, we have a volunteer position, you work for us, but you pay $15 a day. So I think that's a great deal to go to Costa Rica and only pay $15 for food and lodging and an experience with sea turtles. And there were these conservationists who were saying, you're abusing the system, you're taking advantage of people, why would we pay to work for you? And the person who was posting said, conservation does not have a product that you can offer really, except for experiences. And I was like, that's it. If we can tap into how to offer experiences in an ethical way, in a sustainable way that's not harming the animals, but it's giving people who are not necessarily biologists, but kind of are interested in biology, that experience to go see sea turtles and hear about their conservation efforts, and they pay for that experience. That's how we can turn conservation into a sustainable resource that brings money into this industry, because it's already just so strapped for cash. People are way more interested in watching the Kardashians on TV than they are about caring for our planet, because the TV and the Snapchats and all the things that grab our attention on screens have the marketing resources to do that. Conservation doesn't have the marketing resources to do that. And so I'm hoping to kind of just redirect a little bit of the focus of people to maybe do something that's more related to the environment and really a unique, cool experience that they're willing to pay for, so that the agencies and the nonprofits can get the help they need, and the biologists who are trained don't have to be paying for these experiences at the same time.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that our model is maybe not broken, but it's not good. If you need to get money to fund a research project, you pretty much have to go through the government, or like zoos. But those projects those funds are National Geographic. They're in the tens of thousands of dollars. They're not in, like, if you apply for National Science Foundation grants, you can get millions of dollars, but they don't care about conservation. They care about scientific theory. And you can sometimes frame conservation projects into scientific theory, but there's a lot that you just need. Like for elephants, you need boots on the ground. You need rangers to protect them. And National Science Foundation is not going to pay for something like that. And I think conservationists and scientists should stop being so scared of business. Like I'm a business too. And I want to make money because I want to employ people in this field, and I want to spread messages of conservation and education. And my plan is to create, or I have been creating products for aspiring wildlife biologists, but I also want to create products for parents. That's something I have out I'm going to have out this spring.
I would love that.
Like science activities based on wildlife and conservation for their kids. And yeah, I agree. There's too many nonprofits, and I think that we should be, I always believe in supporting businesses that do good. So I try to buy from like certified B corporations and more sustainable clothes and things like that. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that scientists need to tap into that more and embrace getting paid or asking for, or putting out services to make money. Now, where this does get tricky is, and I've talked about this in some other podcasts, is that when you need experience to go into this field, and a lot of these internships, like including reputable organizations, these major nonprofits. And if you listen to, there's a Marine Science Happy Hour podcast where they've worked for some of these nonprofits, but they can't pay the interns because, you know, like you said, conservationists strapped for cash. So that is tricky. And you need the experience to get the job. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, or like if you're not allowing for like free internships. But personally, I think that the change has to, yes, the change can happen within institutions too. But I think that when like professors and employers receive resumes, I think they need to consider that in the application, like who's getting paid and who's not. And is that why they have more experience?
It's a multifaceted, very complicated issue. And I actually listened to your interview with Stephanie Martin.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just really great. And I actually reached out to her. So we're going to hopefully talk soon. But
awesome.
You had a discussion about these barriers to getting into the conservation field, and how if you don't have money, or if you don't have a support system, like I know you have a husband who's an engineer, is that correct? I have a husband who can sustain us. So if you don't have that family or partner support system, that is really, really difficult. So I want to say I have a solution, but I hope that it will become more feasible. So first of all, it is bringing people who are able to and are willing to pay into these experiences. Right. So like I said, I think we just need to market to people who are, baby boomers who want to help conservation projects and are willing to pay $50, $100 more for just a weekend experience with a biologist doing interesting things in the field. I think that could be a way that we're just getting a little bit more income. And if you make it in such a way, it can be really productive and lucrative. But I hate to use the word lucrative. I'm not that's a bad word, because I'm like, lucrative. But as a conservationist,
I don't think it's a bad word. I don't think it's a bad word. I think, I don't know. I personally think we should want to make money because like not necessarily to be greedy people, but like I said, you can't grow a business. And when I work with Wildlife Insights, which is like our whole goal is to have this system where people can like automatically update or upload photos, and uses AI to automatically identify the species. And this, to create this system, honestly, we would love like $1 million. That would make it fast, efficient. We get the AI going really well. It is going, but like for species. And this stuff costs money. And, and that's where I think, like if you think of the tech world, we can do so much with tech, but when it comes to conservation and tech, we're still lagging, and it's because of money.
It's always about money. And that's why I started this, is to hopefully bring some economic streams to conservation. And that's just what I keep coming back to, is I'm not getting paid other people I know who are very well qualified aren't getting paid. People who want to break into the environmental field aren't getting paid. And so we just need a way to get money funneled into the conservation field and in a more sustainable, easy to use system and platform. And that's where I'm hoping Nova Conservation will kind of find that unique niche there.
Yeah.
You had asked another, the barriers and the internships for free. It's a lose-lose situation right now.
I think, yeah.
Well, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that for people who volunteer, I do agree with you. You need some experience. It's extremely hard to get a first job without any experience. So what people can do is when they're in college, they can volunteer with a lab and you can get college credit for that. That's what I did. So it counts as one of your courses. And yes, you don't get paid, but it's considered a part of your academic work. And you can also look into work study programs at your university too. I wasn't sure if ours had it, but at NC State, we take NC State students at the museum, and they had work study programs. So they would do research in our lab, just like other unpaid interns or other volunteers, but they would, I think it counted for course credit too, and they got paid for it. So those are some options if you're a student out there and really facing this barrier.
That's ideal to get some course credit.
Yeah.
Ideally everyone would get paid and we'd all have.
Right. I know.
Conservation wouldn't be struggling for cash, but that's to get course credit is a good in between for right now. And I think are trying to figure this out.
And I think having these conversations too out in the open is important. That I don't know if it's percolating up to the organizations yet, but it's definitely on people's radar. For example, I saw a post shared, a tweet, sharing a job post that was unpaid. And it was for a journal as like a blogger and social media person for, I think it was 20 hours a week. And a lot of people like shamed that tweet, maybe not the company, but I guess the company, I think it was the original tweet from the, no, actually maybe somebody shared it from the post. So I'm not sure if they knew about it or not, but anyway, I think this is something, and especially after the Black Lives Matter movement and the Black Birders Week and the Black Mammologist Week, I think now people are starting to realize, oh yeah, this is why we have such a diversity problem in this field, because you have to have a certain level of financial comfort to go into it.
Yes, it is a huge barrier, and it is such a shame that you have to pay or have to work for free to be in this industry. I can talk about solutions all day long, but one of the things I hope Nova Conservation will do is have a foundation and provide scholarships for especially people of low income, socioeconomic status, especially minorities and Black, Indigenous, people of color, all sorts of diversity communities, to make it as integral. When you think about ecosystems, if you have a forest with the same tree, that's homogeny. That's what we're getting in the wildlife biology community, and industry is just the same. Like, I'm white, you're white, that it's just the same thing over and over again. That doesn't lead to good ecosystem diversity or health of an industry. So we want to be as diverse and biodiverse as possible. So having scholarships and opportunities for people to break into the industry is extremely, extremely important.
That's great. And I just want to add too, in case this is your first time listening for the podcast viewers or listeners, that A lot of these organizations, or most of these organizations, not like inherently evil, like looking to take advantage of people. It's that, like, this happened to me in my postdoc. I had all this work to do, and people would email me asking if they could help out. And I encourage students that I work with too, like, see if you can get some research experience that way. And it's hard as a scientist because I have applied for funding to pay for these students. And like you said, grants are so competitive, so I don't get that funding. A lot of grants don't like to pay for salaries either. So it's difficult. And then when you have somebody who's like really eager and they're like, I want to learn about camera traps, can I help you out? It's really hard to turn them down. And yeah, I understand it perpetuates the system. It's difficult on both sides. I just don't want people to think like scientists are in these conservation organizations are evil and purposely exploiting people.
Right. No, yeah, that's a good thing to point out. I mean, even with Nova Conservation, I have a team of interns behind me, and I cannot pay them right now. I cannot pay myself right now.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a source of income yet to bring around. So I get it. There's no one size fits all solution. I want to be able to pay them.
Yeah.
I'm paying a few people, like I said, out of pocket, but there's just not enough resources to go around. If we can, by any means, make conservation more of a experience-based, still ethical, always animals first, always ecosystems and people to the highest regard. But to get some funding from those who are able to pay for it to help even out and distribute the economic stream for the rest of us, and especially minorities, especially. Yeah. So that's my utopian solution in a perfect world, but things don't always work out that way. So we'll see what happens.
But you're working, yeah, and you're working towards making it better and vetted and everything. And I think we chatted before, and I think the last time you talked, you said people can, like, if they have a bad experience, they can submit anonymously, or I guess anonymously or not anonymously to you, because some of these research positions with professors, like, you don't find out until you get there. That maybe you are getting paid, but you're not being treated the best, or overworked and things like that.
Abuse is all too common.
Yeah.
And so it's just transparency, and it's holding people accountable, and it's calling out injustices as we see it, but also helping those small organizations or those researchers who are doing really good work, who are wanting to change and bring conservation to a new light, and aren't abusing their students or aren't taking advantage of the free interns. For those people to be brought to light too, and see this is a really good organization, and here's why you should work for them. And possibly pay for an experience, such as, one of our partners is LifeNet Nature, and they'll be talking at the February 1st Kickstarter launch, and they have programs in Ecuador, and they have programs in Kenya, and they just don't have the marketing resources to tell people, hey, this is really great work that we're doing. We're trying to support local indigenous people too, and we're trying to give back to the research and conservation and all of these experiences, but we need you to pay for this experience too. You get X, but we get Y. And so it's a give situation. So people who are able to pay for those experiences get an awesome opportunity to work with locals, to see nature up close in a unique way. And then the nonprofit that is doing the work gets conservation, hands-on work, and helps the planet and helps the locals. So it's just, I can just see such a beautiful way of bringing this all together.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great idea. Like I said, I've loved Earthwatch, And the big criticism I have, or not a big criticism, but the downfall is a lot of the programs are expensive, and they're also like 2-week long expeditions. And this, you're giving a balance of different experiences, like a weekend event or something like that. So where does the name? So your name is Nova, and you have a buffalo, a bison on your symbol. Can you talk about where the name and why you chose a bison for your symbol?
Sure. So Nova doesn't have a meaning or anything. I was literally on a hike in Shenandoah National Park. I was pregnant with my second one, and we were walking, and I'm just thinking about all these things I want to do, once the baby's born, and how to start this organization, this business. I'm not sure what to call it. And it just hit me. I was like, Nova Conservation. It just sounded right. And I I don't have a reason. Maybe because I was in Northern Virginia, so it was Nova. I'm not. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
That makes sense.
Isn't that interesting? So I don't have a story, like a great story behind that, except that I just really liked it. And then the bison, I was designing a logo on a free logo maker.
It's okay.
You gotta do what you gotta do. And I know that you are also from Buffalo, New York, and I am from Buffalo, New York. And
oh yeah, that's right. I forgot that.
Yep. And I saw this, and I just really liked the style. Now, I was hesitant because I was like, we don't do anything with bisons. And again, this was going to be an ecotourism company at first, and I was going to just be doing, bird research. So I thought it would be maybe bird related or something like that. And I said, nope, I like this. But I think it symbolizes strength, and my roots from Buffalo, even though it's a bison. But I think it symbolizes the strength and the fortitude that we can have if we kind of band together and help protect our planet. And really, just as a community, as a wildlife biology community, we can make a huge difference in this industry and the future for conservation, for the planet, for the animals, and for all living beings. Yeah, I just love the way it looks, and I said, sign me up. So that's the symbol we're sticking with.
Yeah, I love Canva. That's where I make all my graphics from. And someone on Twitter, I have these palm oil trolls that don't like me because I advocate for sustainable palm oil. And one of them was like, well, maybe you should be spending more time on research and less on your graphics. And I was like, well, it's easy with Canva. It only takes me like 3 minutes, maybe more than that, 5 minutes to make a graphic. But it's something I like to do when I am watching my guilty pleasures, like the Kardashians. They're being canceled now.
Oh,
or they're not canceled, but I guess the show is finished. Yeah, this is the last season.
That's okay.
I
There's
kind
going to
of
be
done
something
with
else
them.
that takes us place. My guilty pleasure lately has been America's Next Top Model. I don't know why.
There's no new episodes out though, right?
No, I've just been...
Yeah. Oh, I love that show. No, I love that show. I've seen them all. I love Tyra.
I know. But I was going to say something else when you were talking about, the trolls and the internet trolls. That's another thing that I wanted to talk about, is just how, I know we're probably running low on time, and I could do.
It's okay. I have as much time. If you have time, I can talk about it.
My kids are fine there. This is another thing I want to change, is like the nasty memes and the nasty messages on the internet. It's just so easy to anonymously or not anonymously criticize other people or cancel culture or whatever. And I just think we could maybe work a little bit to bridge the gap of, hey, let's learn from the nuances of someone else's experience instead of just immediately assuming, oh, you support Biden, or oh, you support Trump, you must be evil, or whatever it might be. And that's a whole nother discussion. Oh, you support sustainable palm oil, you're obviously evil.
Yeah.
No. So there's way too many nuances in that to just have a blanket statement on the internet. And that's why kind of, even as I'm talking about some of this stuff like internships and working for free and pay to work schemes and elitist schemes, I don't like being on the internet, because I just see the negative comments, and it kind of scares me. It scares me away from taking a stance over something, because I know people get just hammered with.
I think it depends on what you put out. I hardly have any negative comments except for those palm oil people who are real, and it's really strange. So if for those who are new to this, I found out that it's better from experts, from scientists at like the IUCN have studied this. It's better to support sustainable palm oil than palm oil, which both destroy habitat for orangutans and other species. So
Mm,
neither is perfect, but palm oil is in everything. And if we just all of a sudden stop palm oil, and then people in those areas, they're not just going to stop production and let the forest regrow. They're going to find something else to make money, and they're still going to turn to that primary forest to try to make money unless something else is in place. And other vegetable oils, they actually take up more acreage than palm oil. So the IUCN is basically saying that, like, if everyone boycotts palm oil and it goes away and these other oils take place, it could make it worse. So yeah, and I was originally engaging with these people to try to get them to see that, like, look, we're on the same page. We all want to protect the orangutans and their habitat. But the reality of the situation is that if you do one thing, this other thing is likely going to happen, which is less ideal. So
right.
you're picking between two bad things.
And that's unfortunately how conservation often feels, is you either work for free or you support, you don't work in the industry at all.
Yeah.
Or it's like and so we're just, and maybe, eventually down the road, there can be some kind of ethical ecotourism opportunity in those kind of Madagascar or wherever, that's cutting down rainforests. Well, not Madagascar because they don't have orangutans, but it's cutting down the rainforest to plant palm oil, and there can be some kind of solution that's sustainable for the environment and
right.
And the people, the indigenous people, so that they get a job, and that the people who have money in capitalist Western societies are still able to help pay for and support. So again, utopian, like I see it, there's a way to win. It just is hard to get there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really easy to say from like over here in the United States, like, you should stop cutting down the forest. But when you go on the ground and the reality, and you see all these people and they need jobs, and like I said, just overturning the structure, it's not as easy as it looks. And if you do something that upsets the local community, they can retaliate. Like in Kenya, in one of the parks, they took away their water, this access to swamps to water their cattle, and they started spearing rhinos. So yeah, you have to, it's conservation. And this is why I switched to this field, because conservation, what I've realized over my experiences in wildlife biology is that so many of, like, I would say 99% of the problems are people and not the animals. And if you just leave the animals or the ecosystems alone, they'll bounce back. Like elephants will bounce back on their own. And yes, there are situations like the Sumatran rhino that needs like in-depth conservation, reproductive biology studies to try to repopulate that species. But for so many, it's just like, stop the habitat loss and stop the poaching, and they'll be fine. That's not to say we don't need management or anything, but just that it will reduce the threat.
Right. Yeah. And that can also kind of lead to another topic, which we can get into maybe another podcast time, but it's just like the environmental guilt of, like, I have 2 kids, and I know that having less people on the planet is good for the planet. And the more people we have, especially in Western societies, and these, like, where we're buying huge houses and driving everywhere, I feel that weight of environmental guilt too. And so there's that's a lot.
Yeah, we can have you back on to talk about that. I'd love to have you back. Greenwashing is something else I want to talk about too.
So many good topics to dive into.
But so it's been great having you on, and I will link up all your social media and everything in the show notes. Do you have any like last words or last thing you want to say before we end this interview?
Um, yes, I took a few notes and I just started where the burden should fall. So the burden of conservation and paying for these experiences should not fall on the people who are really trying to break into the industry, especially if you're a minority, especially if you come from low income, whatever households, socioeconomic status.
Mm-hmm.
The burden should be falling on the people who are able to pay for it, especially these large corporations.
Yeah.
So I think ultimately that's like the final word I have is what we hope to do through Nova Conservation is to not to kind of right the wrongs in a sense of helping the small guy get the help that they need to do their conservation work and kind of not let larger corporations take advantage of people in the way that they have been, especially for young professionals and young biologists, and just tap into the resources that exist out there for people to be able to help conservation by bringing an economic stream to these experiences. And we do need, though, financial support to help get off the ground. So again, if you are able, I'm talking to you on the internet world, because I know, Stephanie, you're already going to be there and I cannot wait to talk to you more. But if you're able to join us February 1st for our Kickstarter launch party, it's going to be really fun. There'll be a time to just ask a few questions and get to know some conservationists and hear their stories. And I cannot wait to see you there. And I can't wait to talk to you again more, Stephanie. It was so
Yeah.
good.
This is great. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. My goodness. I feel like I could talk about so many more things. So we'll pause this conversation. This is not the end.
We'll have to have you back.
Oh, thanks.